A lot of people want to be full-time Etsy sellers or full-time work from home on the creative business, but how feasible is it really? Many people, such as myself, jumped into it without really knowing what they needed to know in the first place. So if you clicked on this video, then there's a good chance that you're on the right track. I've been a full-time seller on Etsy for 2 years, almost exclusively. I've done a few ventures into Shopify and local craft shows and wholesaling, but I'm mainly going to talk about Etsy in this video. I know some of you may not want to hear this. I would include myself in that if I had watched this video before I went full-time. But number one, you have to look at your personal financials. Do you have any savings built up? Do you have any debt? How much do you pay every month for your bills? And not just your bills, we're talking gas, groceries, clothes, your subscription services like Netflix and everything, and your mortgage, your rent payment, your car payment, anything and everything that you pay for, you need to know what it is and how much. Probably should have figured this out anyways, but it is going to be crucial to seeing if you can actually live on potentially a lower income than you currently have. And when you're looking at the numbers for this, be realistic. Don't say, oh, I think I spend about this much money on groceries. I think I spend about that much on gas. Go through your bank statements and look at exactly how much you really spend, because it's probably more than you think. Before you even think about quitting your job, you need to have a plan. You need to have a solid plan and proof to back it up of how you're going to make money. And I strongly suggest to have a decent savings built up, at least 3 months worth of those realistic expenses, but the more the better. And to go along with this, have a good handle on any debt that you have. If you can pay off your debt before you even do this, great, that's even better. It's gonna save you a lot of stress and be 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 5, 6, however many accounts you have, that many less bills that you have to worry about every month. Of course, if you have a partner or somebody you live with that you share expenses with, this needs to be discussed with them as well. Like, will they be okay, like financially and mentally, if you need them to cover bills one month if you have a really slow sales that month. This actually happened to me earlier this year because we just moved into this house a few months ago and my sales were down because it was January. Sales are usually down in January. I depleted my savings to pay the deposit and to get stuff we needed for the house, and my sales didn't cover that by the end of the month, so I needed my husband to help a little bit, and thankfully he was able to. Another thing to think about, especially if you're in the US, can you guess what I'm going to talk about? What are you going to do for healthcare if you quit your job? Start researching if you're young enough to still be on your parents' healthcare plan or your spouse's if you have one, and look up the cost for private insurance. I know, I'm sorry. There are lots of options out there if you don't have, thousands of dollars every month to spend on a private plan, but just be aware that this is something you need to look into. And that's gonna be a huge barrier for a lot of people wanting to go full-time. So don't let that catch you off guard after you quit and you're like, oh shoot, what do I do for insurance? You need to know that ahead of time. We're gonna have a little homework assignment today. You don't have to do it right now. You don't have to turn it in. You don't have to tell me. Just for your own purposes, grab your notebook and write down exactly what your expenses are going to be and what you need to make each month in order to comfortably pay your bills and all of your monthly expenses. And add a little extra for savings or emergencies, just in case. Next, look at the business side. So look at what it takes to run your business every month. This is going to be assuming that you've been doing it for a little while and kind of have an idea of what it costs you every month. But if you don't already, definitely do this anyways. Even if you're not wanting to go full-time, you just want it to be like a hobby or a side job, you need to know how much it costs you to run per month so you can adequately price your products and know if you're actually making a profit or not. Your business expenses could be your overhead costs, like any software you use, your camera equipment, your computer. If you have cutting equipment like a Cricut or a fabric cutter, a sewing machine because you need needles for that, just anything and everything that you use for your business. So the second part of your homework is to do the same thing but with your business expenses. Write that down and have a number that you need in order to pay your business expenses every month. So by now you should have 2 numbers: how much you need to make per month for your personal expenses and how much you need to make for your business expenses. Next, we're going to hop over to Etsy. This will make the most sense and be the best determination if you've been selling for a while, like at least 6 months to a year. More is better, but if not, you can still follow along. The same principle will apply. It just may be a little bit of a stretch if you only have a few orders to go off of because it may be really, really high or it may be pretty low once you average it out over 6 months to a year. What we need from your Etsy stats and from your payment account on Etsy is your average order value. So Etsy doesn't tell you that, so I'm going to show you how to calculate it. And don't worry, it's not difficult at all, I promise. So first you're going to pick a time period. I would recommend the last 12 months if you have that much order history. If not, pick the last 6 months. And remember that you're using the last 6 months or the last 12 months for the next calculations we're going to do. So you go over to your payment account on Etsy, and I'll have screenshots up here of where that is and what I'm talking about. So we want to know what Etsy actually paid you for this. So how much is going into your bank account every month or week, however often you have a deposit. Take the total amounts of those payments for the 6 or 12 month period, whatever you chose, and add them up. So add up what Etsy paid you for those past 6 or 12 months. We're going to look at what you actually received and not the total order value, because that is still going to include things like shipping and tax. We just want to know what is going into your bank account. Once you have that total added up, then go over to your stats page and select that same time period and see how many total orders you received. Then you'll take that first number, the total dollar amount that you actually got paid, and divide that by the total number of orders for that time period. This is not totally scientific, it's just to give you an idea of how many orders you need to make later on. So if you're confused, don't worry, it'll make sense in a second. Just for an example, I'm totally making these numbers up, but if you had, let's say, 300 orders last year, or for the past 12 months, and you made about $9,000 the past 12 months, like take home in your bank account. If you take 9,000 divided by 300, that's going to be an average order value of about $30. So $9,000 over 12 months is probably not enough to live on, but that's just to give you an idea. If your number is even lower than that, then it's totally fine. This is fixable. Now let's go back to the first numbers that we figured out. So your personal expenses and your business expenses. You're going to add those together and then divide that by your average order value. This is going to tell you approximately how many orders you need per month to cover your expenses. So if we're continuing with my example, let's say your personal expenses are $2,000 a month and your business expenses are $800 a month. That's a total of at least $2,800 per month take home after Etsy takes all the fees and the shipping and tax and everything out of your orders. So if we take our average order value of $30 and divide that out, that's 2,800 divided by 30. That's going to be about 94 orders per month. If you want to know how many that is per day, we can divide that 94 by 30 because there's about 30 days in each month. And that gives us a little over 3 orders per day. And of course, more orders is better. This is just going to be our baseline, like bare minimum, what you need to cover all of your expenses every month. I've heard many different things from different sellers saying when they were able to go full time. Some people say about 3 to 4 orders is the average. And I've also seen people say that they need like over 10 orders per day. It just depends on your average order value, your profit margin, your cost of living, just a lot of different factors. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. So once you see those numbers next to each other, like what you're actually making and what you need to be making in order to go full time, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming, but there are a few things you can start working on to change that. The first thing that's going to help is increasing your average order value. And yes, you can influence this. So look at the spread of prices in your shop. Are they mostly under $10? Are there some maybe over 25, some over 50? If you have a lot of lower priced items like sticker shops or wax melts or like really small jewelry things that are under $10, then you can make bundle listings or gift sets, things like that, to encourage people to buy more. And that's also going to save you money on listing fees. Next thing might be a little obvious, but it's lowering your expenses. Most of us, especially if you are passionate about the thing you're actually selling, you're going to be buying more materials than you actually use for a while. And while that's good to kind of help you get started and help build up your stock, it's going to have to stop at some point. So try to stick to only buying supplies with what you made the previous month from your shop. And of course, you can't use all of that money to buy materials because you're going to have other expenses that you're trying to cover now as well. So be mindful of that and be strategic about what kind of materials you're buying, and also like buying in bigger quantities to get better prices and stuff like that. To make this easier, I strongly suggest as well to use a budgeting app. I personally use YNAB. It's called You Need a Budget. I'll link to it below. I am not like sponsored by them or anything. I have used YNAB for like 7 or 8 years. I actually paid off my debt right after I went full time with my Etsy shop because of YNAB. It was pretty easy to allocate all of my expenses and my budget, and it's a zero-based budgeting program. So you allocate every single penny that you have instead of just saying, oh, 300 for this, 200 for that, whatever. You have like down to the penny what you have to spend on each category. So every time you get a payout from Etsy or your Shopify, whatever, then put that into your YNAB or whatever budgeting app you want to use, even if you just use a spreadsheet. So instead of spending whatever is left in your business checking account on materials, allocate all of that in your budgeting app to something specific. In any situation, whether you're an Etsy seller or not, just have a normal job, it is wise to not put all of your eggs in one basket. Having multiple streams of income will make you much better off in the long term, especially because sales can fluctuate throughout the year. Which is also why I said to take the last about 12 months into account when you did all the math earlier, because it's going to give you a good idea of what the average is for a whole year. Because if you just look at one season or like a few months out of the year, that could be really high or could be really low. Other income sources for Etsy sellers could be things like, having a Shopify, doing sponsored posts on social media that relate to your niche. You could wholesale to other stores either directly or through a website like Faire. You could do in-person craft shows, pop-ups, or you could even teach classes that relate to your niche. I'm not saying any of those are quick and easy necessarily, but neither is Etsy. The last part of your homework is to come up with a few ideas of things you could do for extra streams of income. You don't have to worry about that like right off the bat. Just focus on getting your Etsy shop and everything, and then you want to try to see if you can fit in other things to do on the side. That way, in case something happens or sales are low, you'll have a bit extra. So this was just for informational purposes. It's not going to be the be all end all, like not 100% guarantee that if the numbers line up, it's going to work out. So far, the math has been working out for me for the most part, and I know about how many sales I need each month to pay my bills. Let me know if you have any questions about making the jump to being a full-time seller, and don't forget to subscribe for more Etsy videos. I really appreciate you watching this video to the end, and stick around for a few more if you want, and I'll see you in the next one.